Before we talk about how the lymphatic system recycles lymph, we're going to talk about the pathway that this fluid takes in order to get back to the cardiovascular system. So we're going to look at the pathway of flow of lymph. So the first thing that has to happen is lymph has to enter the tiniest structures of the lymphatic system called lymphatic capillaries. And lymphatic capillaries are made up of simple squamous epithelial tissue. In other words, their walls are a single layer thick. Right? And the reason why that the walls of the lymphatic capillaries have to be simple squamous epithelial tissue is for diffusion. Right? So things can easily diffuse across the walls of the lymphatic capillaries. Now, emerging lymphatic capillaries form larger structures, right, called lymphatic vessels. And within lymphatic vessels, right, you'll find valves. And these valves have a similar function to the valves of veins in the cardiovascular system. These valves in lymphatic vessels prevent lymph from flowing backwards. Along the pathway of lymphatic vessels, you'll also find structures called lymph nodes. Right? And lymph nodes are packed with lymphocytes. Right? And the function of a lymph node is to help cleanse the lymph. Right? So now emerging lymphatic vessels form larger structures called lymphatic ducts. Right? And lymphatic ducts will dump their lymph into the cardiovascular system through vessels called veins. Again, veins will dump the fluid back into the cardiovascular system. So now let's take a look at a picture that illustrates the pathway of lymph through the lymphatic system. So the first thing I want to point out to you is how closely associated the lymphatic system is with the cardiovascular system. So here you have the cardiovascular system. So this here structure, hopefully you remember from the last chapter, that's the heart. Right? And then you have blood vessels leaving the heart. Right? Blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart are called arteries. Blood vessels that carry blood to the heart are called veins. And then in between arteries and veins, right, we have smaller blood vessels called capillaries. Right? And these capillaries, remember, are made up of simple squamous epithelial tissue so that fluids and gases can easily diffuse between capillaries into the tissues. Okay. So these green arrows up at the top, right, represent the movement of fluid from the cardiovascular system to the lymphatic system. So once this fluid enters the lymphatic system, that fluid is now called lymph. And that lymph is picked up by these structures here called lymphatic capillaries. Emerging lymphatic capillaries form larger structures called lymphatic vessels. And along the pathway of lymphatic vessels, you have structures that clean the lymph called lymph nodes. And then merging lymphatic vessels form larger vessels called lymphatic ducts. And lymphatic ducts return lymph or recycles lymph back to the cardiovascular system through veins.